We've learned a lot in the last 100 years about the role of the intestinal microbes that live in our gut. And initially, not many people thought much of it, didn't think that that had much to do with how healthy we would or would not be. Over the last 20 years, an awful lot of medical literature has come out talking about how this complex ecosystem can affect our health. And we do things to alter it, like get an infection because we're exposed to some bacterial substance that can cause diarrhea or other kinds of gastroenteritis. That's one thing. But we use drugs that can, like antibiotics or steroids or birth control pills or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, et cetera, et cetera. Almost always we affect the composition of the microflora of the gut. And think of it this way. There are 10 times as many microbes in the gut as there are cells in the human body. You're looking at a huge number here that's very important to respect, because the metabolic activity in this stool is more in its size than any organ system in the human body. And when you look at the DNA that's present in the human body, there is more DNA in the bacterial genes that are in the intestinal tract. And so we need to look at the combination of DNA and genetic material that's both in our body and the relationship that it has with the DNA from microbes. We know that in the case of stroke now, an article came out in a journal called Nature Communications in December of 2012, that they tracked the amount of beta-carotene, or different kinds of carotenoids, that were able to be made in the intestinal tract. And the carotenoids, like beta-carotene, protect against inflammation. They're powerful antioxidants, and a few studies show that those people who have the most in the way of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory substances are at a lower risk for heart attacks and for strokes. And so when they measured to see if people who had had strokes had the ability to make these carotenoids in the intestinal tract, they found that they actually were impaired. So now we're looking at another example, such as with heart attacks and the microflora of the gut in that situation, or of asthma or autoimmune diseases or multiple other illnesses that we haven't had great results in preventing or in treating, are very much connected to what the microflora of the gut is like. And when the intestinal tract microflora is upset, not only will there be overgrowth of certain kinds of bacteria, but there also has an effect on the permeability across the lining of the intestinal tract, and it causes the so-called leaky gut syndrome. When you have pores in the gut that are too big as opposed to tight, they don't filter out a lot of the substances that are large molecules from passing inside the body, nor do they stop even whole bacteria from translocating from inside the intestinal tract to inside the body. When that happens, it changes the metabolism of our body, because now we have a huge influx of a lot of chemicals or microbes that are toxic, because they make something called endotoxin, which, when it's made in large enough doses, can cause us to get sick in very significant ways. So when we are looking at the microflora of the intestinal tract, we're hypothesizing now that it may be possible to treat the composition of the microflora of the gut, to change it so that it can help protect us against things like heart attacks, strokes, asthma, autoimmune diseases, and many other conditions that might be very straightforward and very interesting to study.